Ho ho, Matt. Merry Christmas, a day late. Hope you had a fantastic holiday. Hope you won all the championships or won all your playoff games that are heading into championships this weekend.
And same to you, ho ho ho. So or ho. I liked ho hos back in the day.
Yeah,
Feeling ho hos? Probably not. Not right now,
well,
right?
not right now, but I mean, generally speaking, as a child, yes, all
Yeah,
about the
yeah.
ho hos.
I like to unravel them.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
we're gonna unravel this. How about Greg Dortch?
Fuck that. It was a great game. Congratulations to him. And maybe this is a reminder that when third team quarterbacks come in and play, sometimes the receivers that we're not playing are the guys that benefit from it. It was about horrible game for DeAndre Hopkins. I expected way more from him. Didn't expect what we got from Dortch. I think we've seen that Dortch is capable of this any given week. Also, that he's not capable of this any given week. Playoff time, championship season, not taking that chance.
It's too bad. If I did, I would have won the one league that I lost on the difference between him and Mike Evans. But I did add Dortch during the week, but I decided not to start him. I took a couple of chances elsewhere. That worked out, but that was the one chance that would have sealed it for me. But I'll say I'm feeling Greg Dortch mainly because, I did add him. And I think the reason that he's not looking all that, that sometimes it's not all that good is mainly more of a function of that offense than it is to miss a player. So
that's absolutely it.
yeah. So I'm, at this point though, I think that key point that you brought up is with the quarterbacks that they have, he's probably the best option.
Right.
So I'm taking the chance with him as if you have a wide receiver 4, wide receiver 3, I feel good with that.
Well, we're at a point of the season where we're either going to feel or fuck guys based on number one our needs, but also the offense they're playing in, and so even some outliers and some great offenses we're going to have a little more interested in, and for me this question is more about the offense than it is about the player.
I get that. So to me, and I'll just put it this way, I'll just cap it in saying for me it's the fact that Cliff Kingsbury is ultra predictable. Likes to use the passing game as an extension of the run game, and who's going to be that guy now with Moore out and with a quarterback who's got kind of a pop gun arm? I think to me Dortch
Wait
might
a
be
minute,
that
Chris
guy.
Collinsworth kept telling me he has a great arm.
Well, okay. Well, are we
Was he
talking
lying?
about Trace McSorley?
I think we are.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe Chris's son told him that. I don't know.
We go. Shots fired.
Yeah. Well. But what about James Cook?
Okay, so here's one that I'm feeling in terms of, I'll take an ancillary piece in a great offense if I need to take if I have a hole to fill. And this is a case where the Buffalo Bills, and I've said this all season long, though. I mean, ideally, I want to play Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. Beyond that, okay, I can if I need to because it's a great offense. And any given week, you're liable to get some great production from the pieces that aren't the high-end pieces that I'm looking to play. So yes, and I'd say the same about Devin Singletary, slightly less so about Gabe Davis and Isaiah McKenzie and Dawson Knox. I mean, they're in a great offense that can get things done apparently in whatever the weather is.
Yeah, I think Dawson Knox is coming on. I think James Cook has certainly been coming on, but his path of production hasn't been linear this year. That's for sure. And I laugh because the superstitious part of me is like, well, I've had James Cook all year on my championship team, and I used him in week 1, and that was it. So am I going to use him? Am I going to bookend it and use him in week 1 and week 17? Or am I going to stick with Raheem Mostert? And the superstitious part of me is probably rolling with Mostert, but we shall see. I may make the move with Cook, but I'm feeling him. Certainly like the way they're packaging him up in terms of usage in the red zone. Obviously, the run game's clicking with him a little bit more often with some decent matchups. When he's good, he's really good, and they're hitting big plays. So I like it.
Yeah, I totally agree with all that. And again, I think we're going to follow trends at this point of the season, and the trend at this point of the season is both those Buffalo running backs are playable commodities. We're looking at running back 18 and 19 over the last month of the season. Tough matchup this week for your championship game. But look, it's week 17. We're going to have needs at this point, and we're going to have to be playing players that we think are less than ideal. I think these guys are more ideal than we believe. But, just that the feeling is based on the whole season. Look at the last 4 weeks, and you'll find out. We've got James Cook, running back 18, Devin Singletary, running back 19.
Well, I like, on that note, obviously I would have to presume, because I do the same thing, you're feeling taking your fantasy points per week and filtering that for the past 4 to 5, maybe even 6 weeks, as a way to look at the season in that scope at this point. You feeling that?
Yeah.
That's how I
totally
do it.
Feeling that. That's exactly what I'm doing right now as we're talking. And that's what I'm doing as I'm setting my lineups. Look, we know every year someone is going to win us a championship that probably we did not draft. And, that's a great way to help identify those guys that are rising up because, look, we're paying attention to the players on our teams for the most part. Or guys that are, basically frontline starters. We're not maybe paying attention to the Jerick McKinnons of the world, right?
Yeah.
And so, the trend can be your friend. They say that in the finances. I don't know anything about money, but I've heard that said.
Well, the trend has been Dawson Knox's friend too.
Yeah.
So we'll add him on that too. But what about Chuba Hubbard in Carolina? He had a big game. Is that something you feel pretty good about that continuing?
Flex level play, yes. I think he's a pretty solid play going forward. I could do that. Like you look at the last month with a bye week, he's running back. He's inside the top 24 anyway. And so playing Tampa Bay Buccaneers, James Conner says that's not the worst matchup in the world.
Well, then, okay. I may actually feel that. I don't feel him as a player, but I understand that from a fantasy commodity, so I can live with that. I can live with Drake London as the main guy because I think that Desmond Ridder, being a young rookie that he is, and being the type of player that we've talked about with him, or at least I've remarked with him before about red light, green light. Well, he may not look at the full intersection and look both ways before he crosses it. We'll keep that traffic analogy, but he's goal focused on Drake London no matter what. So I'll take that.
You probably pay more attention to these things than I do, but tracking the rookie production. But I think he's been, maybe a disappointment based on where he was drafted. But I think in terms of what his production's been, and compared to the other rookie in this class, he's been pretty damn good, pretty solid. I think the target share has been great. For me, I think that makes him play commodity. He had a bye over the last month of the season. He's been right down at the end of the wide receiver 3 ranks in that regard. So for a lousy offense, with playing a quarterback that hasn't played very much, I think Drake London is playing quite well. I don't know that I want to force him into lineups based on anything that I just said, but if I needed to force him into a lineup, I would say, okay, I got a chance.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm looking at Chuba Hubbard and Drake London, I'm looking at the matchup to decide the two
right.
more than
This is also the time of year, right, where I'll remind everyone, don't get cute. You don't outsmart yourself. But also, you're probably going to be in position to make hard decisions that you didn't want to make. And sometimes they're maybe not as hard as you think they are when you dig a little deeper into the numbers, especially the most recent numbers.
Is Velus Jones a no-brainer?
No, he's not a no-brainer. Fuck him. So
that's a no-brainer to me.
Oh, okay, yeah, the no-brainer part. Yes, that is. Look, anything having to do with the Chicago passing attack is kind of a no-brainer. Not a slight on Justin Fields, just a slight on the talent around him. Yeah. And there's a reason Justin Fields runs a lot. And I think it's because his receivers don't get open a lot.
Yeah.
So and it's not a great offense in general, right? It's an okay offense. The highlight of this offense is Justin Fields. If any of the pieces around him rise up on any given week, it probably has more to do with him than them at this point. So, yeah, fuck the Bears not named Justin Fields.
Yeah.
Okay, David Montgomery a little bit, and maybe we're gonna get to him. Khalil Herbert, right? I think there may be. You might be in a position where you have to play Khalil Herbert. This wasn't a great game. I think that if you were grasping for straws, you could grasp for straws.
And that's kind of what I was going to ask you about, is that do you feel the idea of, okay, it was his first game back after being on IR, will week 2 be better? Do you tend to look at running backs in week 2 and rationalize to yourself, okay, they're in their second week back. If I have to take the chance on them, that would be the edge that would keep me from being dissuaded from keeping him on the bench.
I almost feel with running backs, we're taking our chances anyway these days, right? Just in terms of roles. Yeah. Look no further than Baltimore. Or just about any team that has multiple running backs, it's hard to know from week to week it seems it's just increasingly volatile. There's more variance. So yeah, I think he's a guy that I would grasp at straws back. So in this case, you would look back further than last week's game. You would look back the history of the whole season and see that when he was, up and running, he was a pretty viable play, even working behind David Montgomery, sometimes outproducing David Montgomery, at least being a more dynamic player than David Montgomery.
Yeah, he had, up until that injury, I think he had 6 or 7 games that year that he was as good or better than David Montgomery statistically. So certainly that's why I would be encouraged, is the combination of first week back and what he had done in previous weeks. Velus Jones, yeah, fuck him, and mainly because he's a schemed-based player, which means that if he's not going to beat guys one-on-one on third down with his route running selection. He's the guy that the team says, you're really a running back, we're just putting into space and asking you to catch the ball on short throw-out screen plays. Occasionally we might throw a deep shot to you, but you're basically in the Gabe Davis package with a lot more screen elements, or maybe the Jalen Reagor package, which is not that great of a package if your name is Jalen Reagor. So, he's a little bit more of a younger Jalen Reagor at this point in terms of usage. And I would say Reagor was a better wide receiver prospect, to be honest. The
Eagles would agree with that.
Yeah. So
Vikings would not.
Vikings would not. Yeah.
Justin Jefferson says not so fast.
Yeah, that's right. But how about Amari Cooper? He's been, injury's been bugging him, but he seemed to come back to life a little bit this week.
This is not an offense I'm trying to invest in the wide receivers or in the receiving core at this point of the season. But if I had to, he would be the one. They're playing Washington, this week coming up ahead. So. And like I do think Deshaun Watson's getting better. We have to kind of throw out this last game, the Saints game, even being weather agnostic. Certainly I'm willing to acknowledge weather's a factor, and when I say weather agnostic, I mean, I go into a game and if it's going to be cold and whatnot, I'm like not sitting Josh Allen in favor of Davis Mills, right? I mean, you make logical decisions, you kind of weigh it out, but weather can be a factor in this game. It clearly was. And Deshaun Watson's getting noticeably better. That said, Amari Cooper is like wide receiver close to 50 over the last month of the season. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact this offense doesn't score a ton of points. And I don't know that that's going to change notably down the stretch. So, if you have him, you're probably still playing him based on his name and his talent. And I get that. I might be looking for better options.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Chubb's playing hurt, obviously. He's got that foot injury, and he looks different. Don Peoples-Jones has been wide receiver 32 over the past several weeks, I think since week 13. But
he'd probably be wide receiver 22 if he caught all the passes.
There you go. So, I mean, and that's the thing. So I'm with you. I would say that if you're looking at Amari Cooper or say Greg Dortch, that might be a tough decision. I might go with Cooper there, as a result of that. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if, it turns into one of those decisions that you're just like, you're going to feel like you second-guessed yourself to death with it. So you got to be careful. All right. What about Nick Chubb for you? It sounds like you kind of agree with me.
Yeah, I do. You're still probably playing him, but I mean, you also, if you've been playing him, you realize it's been a couple of single-digit games and a couple of games barely inside double digits, and even with good matchups or whatnot. So, you're hoping he gets right against Washington. I don't know that I'd bet on want to have to bet on it, but do you have better options? That's the question, and probably in most cases you won't.
Are you grinching on Colby Parkinson as well?
Grinching a little bit, yeah. Screw him. Like I'm the hugest Will Dissly fan in the world, and even I will admit that a team that has 3 tight ends has no tight ends for fantasy purposes.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I mean, Parkinson's that guy that without Tyler Lockett, Parkinson could be that downfield possibly guy. So far.
Also this game, I mean, Marquise Goodwin clearly wasn't. They said he was ready to play. I suspect he was not.
Yes. So, and that's the thing. And when he is Parkinson, we'll see him back in the parking lot. So,
and we'll see if Lockett comes back this week. I tend to take things that Pete Carroll says with a grain of salt because Pete Carroll is the most overly optimistic human on earth, or the biggest, fattest liar on earth, or a combination of the two. It's entirely possible. I I won't like assign motives or anything. But like when he says, so when they ran down the injury report on Friday, and like 3/4 of it came true and 1/4 of it did not. But I think that's about what you should expect when you're listening to him talk.
So is I haven't seen the movie, but I saw Ed Norton on my Netflix talking about a scene of him as some sort of tech millionaire or billionaire in the sequel to Knives Out, and he was like assigning people rooms based on their bio readings on something that he had. So are you telling me that Pete Carroll could have played that role of like the tech billionaire with the new agey personality? Yes. Okay. Then we've got him pegged then. Okay. Well, let's just take this as a trio because they're all the same team. They're all the same position, and they all played pretty well last week. If you started any of them, you probably got decent amount of points as wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 types, maybe even better. And that's Isiah Hodgins, Richie James, and Darius Slayton. Guys we talk about a lot on here, but I just like to see the check, and I like to see.
I would like for us to maybe try and look back and say, who was the guy that was on Hodgins all along? Which guy was that?
Was it Bob? Was it Bob Harris?
I'm going to take the credit. Look, this is another case where you play the one you got, right?
Yeah.
And to your credit, Richie James is over the last month a wide receiver, borderline wide receiver 2. Hodgins a locked in wide receiver 2 with some wide receiver 1 upside there, based on the touchdowns, right? And kind of Slayton, I think, is the outlier of the group, but he's still a viable wide receiver 3 play, and so that's why I would say, you go into this week, and if you have one of these guys and you need to play him, it's been pretty good over the last month. Don't deny what you've seen, and they're playing Indianapolis, so one of them will see Stephon Gilmore, and one of them and 2 of them will not.
Yeah, and the 2 who won't will probably be Hodgins and a lot of James, but I would say Hodgins is probably one of your safer picks on that regard because he's going to benefit from the other 2 in terms of role of how they're used on the field. Slayton's more your X, your split end who's going to win on the outside and win deep and be forced to be covered by the top guy. James can do a little bit of that as well, but he's more of your over-the-middle receiver and your slot guy. And occasionally will draw the coverage of the primary guy. Hodgins is kind of your bigger, slower, over the middle field guy who can win contested plays, but also win with quickness off routes.
So just to get off top, take this a little further afield, because I think it's worth noting, Hodgins has the connection with Brian Daboll together in Buffalo, right? Brian Daboll, who, by the way, increasingly looks like a cartoon character with each passing week, and kudos to him for that.
Which cartoon character does he look like to you?
I don't know, but when he had the hood on in 2 weeks ago, he looked like something from a Bugs Bunny cartoon. I don't know if it's Marvin Martian or some Marvin Martians or Martian. I don't know what that guy's name
Marvin
is.
the Martian. I like Marvin the Martian.
I think it's like a close relative of Marvin the Martian. Anyhow, put some antennas on him and we would have had him dead to rights. Anyway, so I feel like Brian Daboll thinks he's pretty good at this. And so I'm just going to carry this out. I'm starting to believe that Brian Daboll is starting to believe he can turn Daniel Jones into a quarterback. And we'll probably see Daniel Jones going forward. Could be entirely wrong, but I think he's starting to see things. And look, there were some plays where you thought, like, wow, a year ago that would have been a turnover, right? Yeah. It wasn't a turnover. And so I don't know. We'll see where this goes. But they're spinning some gold from some of this straw here, and I think a lot of this is on Brian Daboll, who I think is starting to show why he probably should have been a head coaching candidate a little sooner than he was.
I'm certainly not willing to say I'm feeling Daniel Jones, but I'm not going to say fuck him either anymore. At least I'm starting to say, all right, I'm going to wait and see. I'm feeling the idea of giving him a little bit more time. I
think it's more Daboll than it is Jones, right? Yeah. I think it's more Daboll thinking I can fix this. Right. Yeah. And so there we have it. All right. I've said my piece.
Well, I think Oedipus said he could fix some things too. So we're going to find out. Trenton Irwin. Who? Trenton Irwin. Are you even like, are you feeling adding Trenton Irwin to a roster? That
I might try to. So Trenton Irwin is a guy I will add to block somebody else from getting Trenton Irwin so he doesn't score those damn touchdowns against me.
Okay.
Right. I mean, I think that's where we're at on him. I think, what do I want to say? He's been running back. He's been wide receiver 32 over the last month, based in large part on the fact that he has 3 touchdowns over that span, right?
Yeah.
And also, I mean, some of those touchdowns came when all the pieces were in place. So one came with without all the pieces. The 2 most recent came with everybody on board. And so sometimes what happens in football is players demonstrate they have abilities that earn them more playing time. I believe this might be the case with one Trenton Irwin.
Yeah, this Stanford kid was a special teamer. I remember studying him. Certainly a nice slot receiver. And maybe Joe Burrow's just starting to get a kind of feel for him and feels like that he can rely on Irwin in situations that fit well that other teams that maybe he can't with Tyler Boyd. Not that Tyler Boyd is a worse player or unreliable, but maybe there's just certain things that Irwin does well. Jahan Dotson, can I get you to change your mind? Okay.
I'm very stubborn. So feeling him. Also, I'm going to say, though, my points about him in the past, watching this game in particular, it adds further belief that Scott Turner should, we don't talk enough about this guy. He does a really good job with this offense and scheming his receivers into good spots, including Curtis Samuel. And that extends Jahan Dotson, who, by the way, I mean, we kind of knew he was a pretty good player. I mean, I believe, heard that in some publication I peruse over the offseason that talks about rookies. What's that thing called?
You perverts can get it at $21.95 now that you've been waiting to pay full price at Mount.
I want to pay full price.
All right.
Anyway, so, I mean, we knew he was a good player, but, not all these good rookies turn out to be good fantasy plays their rookie seasons. He's turning out to be a solid play down the stretch. And, we'll see what the quarterback situation pans out to be. But I think a lot of his success has as much to do with Scott Turner as it does the quarterback.
Are you parking Parkinson for Darren Waller?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Feeling Darren Waller. Darren Waller's back. Not feeling the offense. Not feeling Derek Carr. Feeling Darren Waller, though. I mean, you watched the Pittsburgh game. You saw he was very close, to having the same touchdown he had in his first game back. I think that's entirely within his range of possible outcomes every week, is him running up the middle of the field about 3 steps ahead of the defender, and it's on Derek Carr to not throw the ball 5 yards too far. Also, entirely possible Derek Carr will throw the ball 5 yards too far. So take that into account, but it's the tight end, people. There are not a lot of those around.
Well, what about Hunter Renfrow then? He's back too. Do you even care about that?
I want to say I don't care about that, but watching that touchdown play, can we just say, man, Hunter Renfrow is a good football player.
Yeah.
He just is, man. You can put the ball in his hands. He's one of those guys. We all knew that guy in high school or whatever. I had a friend who didn't play high school football or anything, but when all the football team went out and played flag football, nobody could touch this guy.
Yeah.
Right? There's always that guy out there. He doesn't look much. He's not real organized, but put him the ball in his hands and he makes plays. Hunter Renfrow appears to be that guy. Probably not forcing him into lineups, but I was pretty impressed with that touchdown. Needless to say,
it's too volatile at this stage, and I worry that the way that NFL offenses are going, that Hunter Renfrow is always going to be that guy that could have had a Wes Welker like season, but may never find a team that wants to feature him like that, and it just may never happen. So that's my concern with him. So you asked me about Cam Akers a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
How are you feeling about him now with where you're at, we're checking back in on him?
5 touchdowns over his past 4 games. He's running back, I want to say 3, 4, 5 over that course of time. If you narrow that time frame down, he's running back 3. I'm feeling it. So every year we talk about who's going to be the league winner that nobody has. Well, everyone drafted Cam Akers and then dropped him. And so you probably did pick him up off waivers, and he might well win you the championship this year. So, there's not a lot of pieces in this offense to feel good about. And Cam Akers has turned the season around. There's no doubt about it. He's, I want to say, over the last month, running back 3 over the last month. Oh, also playing the Chargers in the season finale. I have on good authority, the Chargers not good at stopping the running backs of opposing teams.
Listen, I'm just feeling fantasy football for the sake that at the beginning of the year, if we had asked the collective that whether you would feel good about a Los Angeles Rams team that lost Matthew Stafford, lost Cooper Kupp, lost Allen Robinson, figuratively or literally, offensive line sucked,
I believe they have
Cam
not played the
Akers
same offensive line like more than twice this year, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I think they have a new line almost every week.
Yeah, and Cam Akers wanted a trade, wanted to be left. No one believed him in any way. No one bit on him at all in the NFL. And now he's running back 3 or running back 4 the past
3
month.
over the last month.
Over the last month.
5
might
rushing
win
touchdowns.
Your fantasy league. I love fantasy football.
That guy.
Yeah.
Look, last year, he is last year's Rashad Penny, right? I mean, he's the guy that's going to come out and, that you had at either a bargain basement price or picked up off the waiver wire and is going to be good. That's the joy of fantasy football. And I mean, if we sat down and I got out my pencil and paper, you and I between us could cobble together an annual list of guys who have done this.
Yeah.
And it's always interesting to try to identify them in advance and nearly impossible to do that.
And it's so much fun because you compare that to like Cam Akers. You compare Cam Akers' story to like Josh Jacobs, where in week 1 people were writing his ass off.
Right.
In week 1 of the preseason, like after the
Hall of
second
Fame
quarter,
game.
The Hall of Fame game, they're like, it's Zamir White time, baby. Josh Jacobs it's over, and now we're looking at Cam Akers, and we were like, Cam Akers to begin this year? Are you like kidding me? Okay, yeah. How about Tyler Higbee? Can he be a supporting part of this cast that's worthwhile to you in a fantasy league?
His band of goodness extends 2 games, right? But it's 2 games with a commonality. And that commonality is Baker Mayfield for the most part. So, and again, playing the Chargers this week, maybe a little better at defending tight ends than they are running backs, but still probably in this, ocean of nothingness, this vast wasteland that is tight ends. He has emerged as a guy that you could play down as you head into your finals. I think I'm feeling him a little bit.
Yeah, Baker. When I think about Baker Mayfield, I think about Mark Andrews. I think about David Njoku, and Tyler Higbee can certainly play well enough with a quarterback that looks at their tight end as their binky. So that if that's Baker Mayfield's binky, then he'll at least catch 8 out of the 12 targets that are thrown his way that are like semi-accurate enough. Baker Mayfield played well against the Broncos, but then again, fuck the Broncos. I can't even.
Broncos didn't even show up. What the hell was that?
Yeah.
I mean, you knew the offense is like a 50-50 prop. I'm being very generous there. A 25-75 proposition to show up. The defense had shown up pretty much every week. This week, the defense did not show up. In fact, I would say the defense showed up and then left, then showed up for a minute again, and then left again just to make the point that they were leaving.
As a fan of the game of Russell Wilson's throughout his career, like how he played throughout his career up until this point, I'm really disappointed to see how this is going. But at the same time, as someone who absolutely has been fuck the Broncos since like 1986, I'm actually kind of quite thrilled this is going down.
I'll just say, if you just bought this team and you're sitting there looking at the thought that you have $160 million guaranteed to a guy who doesn't seem to be able to play the game anymore. And look, maybe all this changes when they change coaches and put a different offense in there that maybe he handpicks or whatever, because I can't imagine he's not going to have a big say. There's a lot of weirdness going on with this, whether teammates really have his back or not. He's got the office in the coaching area or whatever, all these things you hear, and just all seems very weird. But Russ needs to get correct, and I don't know if we'll ever see that Russell Wilson we saw again. And if I just invested, that $242 million contract,
doesn't Walmart own this team?
Walmart owns this team.
Well, there you go. That's all I got to say at this point about that.
I think the price of all of your stuff is going up.
I don't go there, so it don't matter. All right. Well, this was fun. I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas.
Ho ho.
Ho ho.